Hello and welcome back to my vlog. We're still doing Tea Leaves by Francis S. Drake on part 9, which I recorded once and it disappeared from the camera. Who knows? In a letter to a friend dated November 24, Hutchinson thus expresses his views of the situation. He says, "When I saw the inhabitants of the town of Boston assembled under color of law, and heard of the open declaration that we are now in a state of nature, and that we have a right to take up arms, and when in a town meeting, as I am informed, a call to arms was received with clapping and general applause, when a tumultuous assembly of people can, from time to time, attack the persons and the property of the king's subjects, and when assemblies are tolerated from night to night in the public town hall, to counsel and determine upon further unlawful measures, and dark proposals and resolutions are made and agreed to there, when the infection is industriously spreading and the neighboring towns not only join their committees with the committees of Boston, but are assembled in town meetings to approve of the doings of the town of Boston, and above all, when upon repeated summoning of the council, they put off any advice from me from time to time, and I am obliged to consent to it, because all the voices there, as far as they declare their minds I have reason to fear, would rather confirm than discourage the people in their irregular proceedings. Under all these circumstances, I think it time to deliberate whether His Majesty's service does not call me to retire to the castle, where I may, with safety to my person, more freely give my sense of the criminality of these proceedings than whilst I am in the hands of the people, some of whom, and those most active, don't scruple to declare their designs against me." And he concludes this doleful story with the question, what am I in duty bound to do? His position was certainly a very uncomfortable one. Frequent conferences with the consignees were held by the selectmen of Boston. Though we labored night and day in the affair, all our efforts could not produce an agreement between them and the town. So wrote John Scoley, chairman of the Board of Selectmen, who also informs us in a letter written December 23rd that there was a way by which the consignees might have avoided trouble. Had they, writes he, on the terms of first application to them, offered to have stored the tea subject to the inspection of a committee of gentlemen till they could write their principles, and until that time agreed that no duty should be paid, which no doubt the customs officers would have consented to, I am persuaded the town would have closed with them. The selectmen told the consignees plainly that nothing less than sending the tea back to England would satisfy the people. Some of their Tory friends also urged them to arrange matters in this way. But they would only agree, November 27, that nothing should be done in a clandestine way, that the vessels should come up to the wharves, and that when they received the orders that accompanied the teas, they would hand in proposals to the selectmen to be laid before the town. They meant only to gain time. They were determined to make the issue with the popular leaders on this question. They were backed by the governor and the influential Tories, and no doubt believed that they could carry their point. On Monday, the 22nd, the committees of correspondence of Dorchester, Brookline, Roxbury, and Cambridge met the Boston Committee at the Selectmen's Chamber, Faneuil Hall. They resolved unanimously to use their joint influence to prevent the landing and sale of the teas, prepared a letter to be sent to the other towns, representing that they were reduced to the dilemma, either to sit down in quiet, under this and every burden that might be put upon them, or to rise up in resistance, as became freemen, to impress the absolute necessity of making immediate and effectual opposition to the detestable measure, and soliciting their advice and cooperation. Charlestown was so zealous in the cause that its committee was added to the others. This body continued to hold daily conferences, like a little senate, says Hutchinson. The Gazette of November 22nd said, "Americans, defeat this last effort of a most pernicious, expiring faction, and you may sit under your own vines and fig trees, and none shall hereafter dare to make you afraid." On the 26th, the men of Cambridge assembled, and after adopting the Philadelphia resolves, very unanimously voted that as Boston was struggling for the liberties of their country, they could no longer stand idle spectators, but were ready, on the shortest notice, to join with it, and other towns in any measure that might be thought proper to deliver themselves and posterity from slavery. On Sunday, the 28th, the ship Dartmouth, Captain Hall, owned by the Quaker Francis Roch, arrived in Boston Harbor with 114 chests of tea and anchored below the castle. As the news spread, there was great excitement. Despite the rigid New England observance of the Sabbath, the selectmen immediately met and remained in session until 9 o'clock in the evening in the expectation of receiving the promised proposal of the consignees. These gentlemen were not to be found, and on the next day, bidding a final adieu to Boston, they took up their quarters at the castle. Hutchinson advised the consignees to order the vessels, when they arrived, to anchor below the castle, that if it should appear unsafe to land the tea, they might go to sea again, and when the first ship arrived, she anchored there accordingly. But when the master came up to town, Mr. Adams and others, a committee of the town, ordered him at his peril to bring the ship up to land the other goods, but to suffer no tea to be taken out. The Committee of Correspondence, who also held a session that day, seeing that time was precious, and that the tea, once entered it, would be out of the power of the consignees to send it back, obtained the promise of the owner not to enter his ship till Tuesday, and authorized Samuel Adams to summon the committees and townspeople of the vicinity to a mass meeting in Boston on the next morning. The invitation read as follows. Quote, "A part of the tea shipped by the East India Company is now arrived in this harbor, and we look upon ourselves bound to give you the earliest intimation of it, and we desire that you favor us with your company at Faneuil Hall at 9 o'clock tomorrow forenoon, there to give us your advice what steps are to be immediately taken, in order effectually to prevent the impending evil, and we request you to urge your friends in the town to which you belong to be in readiness to exert themselves in the most resolute manner to assist this town in its efforts for saving this oppressed country." End quote. And that's where we'll end for today. More tomorrow. Make it a great day, and bye for now.